State apologizes, pays transgender advocacy group $300,000 for discrimination. Transformation Project filed lawsuit over canceled health worker contract. The state of South Dakota. Oh, well, that's really small. My gosh. Okay. The state of South Dakota has issued an apology letter and a $300,000 payment to a transgender advocacy group for the abrupt cancellation of a Department of Health contract in 2022. Those are the terms of a settlement agreement inked Thursday in a federal discrimination lawsuit filed by the Transformation Project shortly after the cancellation. The group had a contract with the state, paid for with federal funds, to provoke community health worker services to the LGBTQ+ community from its Sioux Falls headquarters. The cancellation came on December 16, 2022, shortly after a conservative news outlet contacted Governor Kristi Noem to ask why the state had signed the $136,000 contract. Department of Health Secretary Joan Adam resigned in the wake of the controversy, though neither she nor the state would comment on the reason for her departure. Probably harassment, that's what it was. The Transformation Project's lawsuit cited Noem's public comments on transgender people and her response to the conservative news outlet, made through spokesperson Ian Fury, as proof that the decision was discriminatory in nature. Well, I mean, that's the trouble you run into as a politician, right? Is you put your personal feelings out about an issue and stuff, and then suddenly you're discriminating and stuff like that. And, you know, I full-heartedly believe that Governor Noem probably did discriminate here, but I mean, that's just to say is that, like, it's so hard. It's so hard to speak about your personal beliefs as a public figure. People just twist it into whatever they want. The contract was signed without Governor Noem's prior knowledge or approval, Fury told the outlet. The state offered a series of alleged failures on the part of the Transformation Project as reasons for the cancellation, but the lawsuit argued that those reasons were meant to put a thin gloss of legitimacy on a discriminatory action. The community health worker hired through the contract, Jack Fonder, was also named as a plaintiff in the Transformation Project's lawsuit. As part of the settlement, the current Department of Health Secretary wrote an apology letter to Fonder and the project's director, Susan Williams. On behalf of the state of South Dakota, I apologize that the Transformation Project's contract was terminated and for treating the Transformation Project differently than other organizations awarded community health worker contracts, Secretary Melissa Magstadt wrote in the January 17th letter. She went on to emphasize that all South Dakotans are entitled to equal treatment under the law, regardless of their race, color, national origin, religion, disability, age, or sex. The settlement agreement spells out the $300,000 payment, a figure more than double the amount of the original contract, and enough to cover the attorney fees associated with the lawsuit. The document also has the state agreeing not to discriminate against the Transformation Project in violation of state or federal law with respect to any service, program, or activity that the state provides. The state does not admit liability for the claims pleaded in the litigation, but admits that the state treated the Transformation Project differently than other organizations awarded community health worker contracts. Well, that's kind of the definition of discrimination, right? Treat someone differently on the basis of something. I mean, you're discriminating against them for one reason or another. The nonprofit lauded the settlement on Friday as proof that it had followed through on its obligations under the contract. We are vindicated as the government has acknowledged what we knew the very day we learned of our contract's cancellation, that we did not break any procedures and we did not fail to meet the terms of the CHW contract in any way, Williams said in a statement to South Dakota Searchlight. To put it simply, the government canceled our contract because of the very population we serve, the transgender community. Brendan Johnson, the former U.S. attorney for South Dakota, who represented the advocacy group, called the settlement a win for non-discrimination. Settlement marks a significant milestone in our ongoing commitment to civil rights advocacy, said Johnson, of Robbins Kaplan LLP. We commend the resiliency of the LGBTQ+ community and remain committed to vigorously upholding their rights. The Transformation Project has been an outspoken advocacy group for that community, and Fonder's contracted role was intended to help members with health system navigation, health promotion, and coaching and education. The federal funds used to pay Fonder's contract were earmarked for certain targeted groups, including the LGBTQ plus community. In a Friday statement, Fonder called the moment an exciting time in history for South Dakota's trans community. I assume the role of CHW with the intention of providing trans people in our community with the resources they require to succeed in this state, little realizing that doing so would result in my own outing as a trans man for standing up for what is right, Fonder said. We promise to keep up the battle for transgender rights and to make sure they have access to the resources they require. 80% of LGBTQ plus youth in South Dakota reported they've experienced discrimination for their sexual orientation or gender identity, according to a 2022 survey by the Tramer Project. That's important. This is the survey that we were taking on stream that one year, where like a week after I got mega canceled. This was the survey that we were taking, and it needs to be taken more frequently. I need to do another stream this year of it. I didn't do it last year because fuck that. 53% of LGBTQ plus youth in South Dakota had seriously considered suicide in the prior year, and 19% reported attempting suicide in the same time frame, higher than for other youth. I don't think the word "for" is necessary here. Higher than other youth in South Dakota. About 75% of LGBTQ plus youth reported experiencing anxiety, and 58% reported symptoms of depression. And I think a lot of that is social, right? A lot of it is the result of like social discrimination, especially when it comes to youth in high schools and stuff like that. Like, I remember high school. High school kids were fucking mean for no reason other than just to be mean. And I feel like that's true for a lot of people on Twitter, too. A lot of them just haven't emotionally matured to the level of being a responsible adult, and so they want to get these like little quips and snide comments out and stuff like that, but it's really high school. It's really immature. Every now and then I'll see that like the fucking kids on Twitter, it's clear when they're fucking kids, okay? Like that's just, it's obvious because they're just so emotionally immature. But like it's so easy for me to completely disregard what they say. It's not easy for a lot of other people, and I think that's where a lot of this like suicidality comes from. When our organization became a target of discrimination, we knew that we had to fight back, not just on behalf of our community health worker, but on behalf of the entire population of transgender people across South Dakota, wrote Williams, the Transformation Project director. The settlement sends some clear and strong messages that discrimination against transgender people will not be tolerated in South Dakota, and that when the government discriminates against transgender people, there are consequences. We hope that this is a message that reverberates across our state. The settlement will allow the group to keep Fonder on staff as a community health worker, a position he kept even after the dissolution of the contract. The group will continue to apply for future contracts with the state, Williams said. Fury, Governor Noem's spokesperson, did not respond to a request for comment. And here we have the full letter by Secretary Magstad. We'll go ahead and read this one, I guess. Dear Miss Williams and Mr. Fonder, this letter addresses the actions of the state of South Dakota regarding the termination of the Transformation Project's community health worker contract. On behalf of the state of South Dakota, I apologize that the Transformation Project's contract was terminated and for treating the Transformation Project differently than other organizations awarded community health worker contracts. I want to emphasize that all South Dakotans are entitled to equal treatment under the law, regardless of their race, color, national origin, religion, disability, age, or sex. South Dakota is committed to ensuring that no person is excluded from participation in, denied the benefits of, or subject to discrimination under any program, activity, or service that it provides. I don't feel like this is very heartfelt, but it's important that it happened. Okay. That was a really short one compared to the last one that we did. I think it's still important to talk about like little stuff that happens in states like this because especially like South Dakota, the LGBTQ population there is widely discriminated against, it being such a rural state with a small population compared to other states. You know, some of these havens that people talk about, like Colorado, California, Washington, Maine apparently now, I guess. Large populations, much larger.